And now making his way to the ring, Canton Miller Jr.
All right, boxing fans, Bash Boxing, Lights Out Promotions, presenting Valley Fight Night, getting set for lightweight action. And here you take a look at Canton Miller. Still young in his professional career. He comes in with a record of 2-1-0. His 2 victories, one a round 3 TKO and 1 decision victory. Now, gentlemen, he's coming off the lone loss of his career, a split decision loss to Jermaine Ortiz in February of last year. We'll see if he can bounce back, get back to his winning ways.
Making his way to the ring, Ivon Ortiz.
And Jonathan King, a lot of showmanship here for Ivon Ortiz, who makes his professional debut. Shows a lot of confidence.
You know what they say about those 19-year-olds? They're all full of vim and vigor.
That's your first fight, John. Go big or go home.
2-0, 2 KOs. Debut? What is it, debut? 2-0? Oh, Ivon Ortiz 1-0.
Boxrick has him listed as
Studio City, this
fighter.
next bout is scheduled for 4 rounds in the super featherweight division. The man in charge of the action, once the bell sounds, Mr. David Mendoza. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner to my left, wearing the blue trunks with the green trim. He weighed in at 134.4 pounds. He has a professional record of 2 wins, only 1 defeat out of St. Louis, Missouri. Here is Canton Miller Jr. And his opponent fighting out of the red corner to my right, wearing the burgundy trunks with the white trim. He weighed in at 134 pounds even. He's making his professional debut out of Los Angeles, California. Please welcome Ivon Ortiz.
Gentlemen, we've gone over the rules and fouls. Protect yourself at all times and follow my instructions, all right? Touch gloves, return to your corner.
Set for lightweight action in his pre-fight interview, Canton Miller saying he is a skillful boxer that likes to mix it up inside, and that has certainly been the case thus far.
I'm sorry, St. Louis is one of those towns like Philly and Detroit where you can really get an education in the gym. It's a traditional fight town, although Miller's probably the first right-handed guy I've seen out of St. Louis in quite a while. Said he cranks out a lot of southpaws.
Canton Miller in the blue taking on Ivon Ortiz in the maroon, and we're going to say that Ortiz officially making his professional debut here tonight.
He takes a good right hand to the temple, seemed to wobble his legs just slightly. Miller has actually not been very active in his career. His lone defeat coming off of a 16-month layoff, and here he is coming off another 1-year layoff. That's never world champions fight more often. It's definitely not advisable to not be in the ring.
Certainly seems that Miller comes in phenomenal physical conditioning, but is he in great ring shape, fight shape? That remains to be seen. And Ortiz in there with a tough boxer in Miller. You got to get a few, maybe a round under your belt before those initial butterflies go away, Chris.
Well, you can see with Ivon Ortiz that the amateur background is there. This may be his first pro fight, but he's not stepping in potholes. He's not making a lot of the mistakes, but there is no substitute for experience, and the jitters have got to still be there.
All right, guys, I'm back here. Canton Miller looking like he's been there before, done that before. He's really taken out a little bit of the salt out of Ivon Ortiz here in the first round.
Looks like he heard what I said about St. Louis southpaws, turning southpaw, and turning right back to orthodox. Best punch of the round thus far has been the straight right hand from Miller to the temple of Ortiz. Shook up his legs momentarily.
First of 4 scheduled rounds here in the lightweight division. And blitzing offense there again by Canton Miller.
Miller again switching stances.
Great point there by you, Chris Strait. Changing back. Southpaw stance now by Canton Miller. He switched in and out between southpaw and orthodox a couple times over in the fight.
Good right hook that time by Miller on the way in.
And one of the things I noticed, Chris, is Ortiz his feet seem to get him in a lot of trouble here. He crosses over, gets square, gets caught with that jab of Canton Miller.
I gotta say, his management has faith in him. I mean, for his first fight, he's taking on a fighter with a winning record, who is a switch hitter, who has a height and reach advantage over him. I can think of easier assignments for your professional debut.
And I mean, just from the eye, it appears like Ortiz is trying to take his head off with every shot.
Well,
Canton Miller prefers to box, stick and move.
That's part of the first fight jitters too, John, is that you just kind of want to get it over with.
First round comes to an end, and we'll be back with round two. All right, lightweight action between Canton Miller, Ivon Ortiz. Ortiz making his debut. Jonathan, your thoughts after the first round of action?
I think Ivon Ortiz came in with a lot of energy, a little bit of nervous energy actually, not necessarily ready. And I think Canton Miller really outboxed him in that first round, so I give the first round to Canton Miller.
I do as well. I think there were some decent body shots that were landed by Ortiz, but I think the switch hitting really sort of discombobulated him a little bit. A lot of times that shows judges that you're desperate or looking for something to change. However, in this case, he used it effectively.
Getting set for round two. Canton Miller in the blue taking on Ivon Ortiz. Ortiz in the red making his professional debut. As Chris mentioned, an uphill climb against Canton Miller. Tough youngster in his own right. Late in the round, Ortiz did catch a nice, you mentioned the body shot. Ortiz did catch him with a nice left upstairs as well, as we now begin the second stanza.
Oh, there's no denying the power of Ivon Ortiz. For a guy that size, he's got thunder in both hands. The only issue that it seems to be is, for me at least, it seems like he's a new pair of shoes. You know, you got to break them in, you got to wear them in before they get comfortable. Ivon Ortiz doesn't seem to be comfortable in there yet, although he has landed a couple big shots here in the second round.
Again, Miller has a style that is difficult to look good against in a professional debut. Miller said him and his brother were taken to the gym by their father after his father found them out they were fighting in the streets. That can go one of two ways, and their father decided to say, oh, you want to fight? Well, you better learn how.
Canton Miller Jr. doing a good job of fighting really long here, Chris.
Just switched up a couple times over again. Now back to orthodox.
Stepping on the inside when he lands that jab. Feet get him out of trouble before anything can land. Canton Miller putting on a show here. Oh, he stuck him there.
Ortiz trying to get inside that reach of Miller. And that is a tough challenge as Canton Miller starts to go to work here in the second round.
Canton Miller doing a great job taking the escalator back upstairs.
Both men showing maturity, and Miller in his way of attacking, and Ortiz in his pro debut doing a lot of veteran moves to avoid getting hit again.
Ortiz back to southpaw, trying to come up the middle with the uppercut.
And Miller got a little over-aggressive there. And now Ivon Ortiz has him pinned into the corner. That's what Miller's got to avoid, Todd. He's really got to stay within his boxing here. He doesn't want to give Ivon Ortiz any openings.
And as you mentioned earlier in the fight, John, Ortiz does tend to go headhunting every once in a while.
Ooh, crisp left hand on the inside by Canton Miller.
Ortiz landed a good right hand to the solar plexus just then. Miller took it well. I gotta say, I'm not comparing Miller to Terrence Bud Crawford, but really switching from southpaw to righty, very smooth. And it reminds me a little bit in body type as well of Bud Crawford in the way that he does it.
Yeah, his transitions are extremely smooth, like he said. 10 seconds. That jab is just pumping into the face of Ortiz as he tries to advance through it, but
switching stance again is Canton Miller. And yeah, to your point, as we come to the end of another round of action, it was Canton Miller using that jab effectively, keeping Ortiz at bay.
I gotta say, gentlemen, not that I haven't seen stranger things in the sport of boxing, but if you're the visiting fighter taking on a debuting fighter, you want to do emphatic things every round to show you're winning the round. So not only did he cleanly outbox his opponent, he staggered him in both rounds. Judges would be hard-pressed to give either of those rounds to Ortiz.
Yeah, Jonathan, Ortiz has got a lot working against him. You got to think, Canton Miller, he's got that jab, he's got the reach that he used effectively. Using that jab effectively was Canton Miller in the last round, as well as continually switching stance over and over again, trying to keep Ortiz guessing.
Yeah, you know, at this point in the fight, if I'm in Ivon Ortiz's corner, I'm throwing the game plan away. He's got to take Canton Miller's head points unless he puts together a bunch of knockdowns here, but he's just got to clear, swing for the fences and look for that home run hit.
Well, it was clear that part of the instructions was to use his jab again. However, the jab is much less effective against a southpaw than a righty. So after Ortiz comes out and lands a few jabs, what does Miller do? He turns right to southpaw stance and nullifies that strategy. However, that is a myth, gentlemen. You can still use the jab effectively against a southpaw. You just have to be ready for it not to land as much. But as a setup punch, it is still effective.
There, Ochoa, that's a nice combination.
He was swinging for the fences there, indeed. Looking for that home run, and now going to work is Ivon Ortiz.
But you know, what we see very often inside the boxing ring, when you're looking for that home run, you leave your chin exposed for that home run for the other side. So Ortiz is going to have to stay within himself here and look for those shots 1 and 2 at a time without giving up any more than he already has. Canton Miller clearly compiling the points here.
And you can see the confidence just welling up in Miller, trying to improve to 3-1. Chris, you mentioned the corner of Ortiz wanting that jab. I think, you don't throw rocks at a man with a machine gun. I think it'd be tough for Ortiz to have much success with the jab against a rangier, taller fighter.
Well, Ortiz had his best success moments ago and again when Miller is against the ropes or in the corner. However, Miller has it all his own way when they're at arm's length.
Canton Miller's got to do a better job on defense. One of those home run shots could easily turn the lights out for this young man, so Canton Miller's got to keep that chin tucked.
Ortiz, this is best round of the fight thus far. Trying to steal around and get things going, get some positive momentum in this his professional debut.
A good right hand over the top there. Didn't land completely flush, but then he allows Ortiz to be in the place where he can do his work.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see Canton Miller tire here. His volume's definitely turned down quite a bit.
Well, hurting your opponent in both rounds means you had to do a follow-up barrage. Takes a lot out of you. But Miller does not have this fight won yet. It's only a 4-rounder, and if he loses the next 2 rounds, good shot. If he loses the next 2, it is a draw.
Canton Miller inspiring somewhat of a pirouette there from Ivon Ortiz with the right hand.
Good body shot by Ortiz. Much more even round. Good right hook by Canton Miller.
Nicely done on the button. Round comes to a close.
Well, gentlemen, I got to say, I think Ortiz did some of his most effective work that last round, and I don't still think I can give it to him. I think the cleaner, crisper shots were still that of Miller.
Yeah, I have to give that round to Canton Miller. I think he won that round with his feet. Created a lot of angles, And Ivon Ortiz is like a bulldozer. He just keeps coming behind his head, working behind his head. And right now he's somewhat of a punching bag for Canton Miller.
Studio City, this is the fourth and final round.
Fighters touch gloves for the fourth and final round of this lightweight contest. Ivon Ortiz making his debut in the red, taking on Canton Miller. You guys mentioned the third round, the best thus far of Ortiz. Did he do enough to win that round? If nothing else, a confidence builder for Ortiz. See if he can keep the pedal to the metal here in the fourth and final round.
Well, oftentimes, Todd, judges are looking for a reason to give a fighter who's been losing rounds a round, so the close rounds will often go to them. Referee David Mendoza seeing something he's not liking.
Someone had a flash.
Yes, flash photography, of course, not permitted in live boxing events as it can blur the fighter's vision. I've seen in televised fights where they actually stop the action for a minute while somebody's phone was confiscated for doing it.
Well, great heads-up officiating there. Here's part of Valley Fight Night, and a nice shot, nice right hand by Canton Miller.
Miller is doing the right thing in the fourth round. He doesn't want to give the judges any confusion to make it look as if Ortiz is landing.
And Chris, am I crazy here? Is Canton Miller having more success from the orthodox stance now than he was earlier in the southpaw stance?
He is, but he's actually giving Ortiz his best chance. Ortiz lands his best punches when he can set them up with the jab, and he does better at that when he fights orthodox.
So you think he should be purely defensive here, fighting out of the southpaw stance?
No, in a 4-round fight, you can never go defensive, and he's not. He's landing cleanly, but I would pick southpaw for him in this last round simply because I think it's been the more effective stance to land. When he's looking to hurt, that right-handed stance is better. But that check hook from the southpaw stance has caught Ortiz many times.
Canton Miller forcing Ivon Ortiz to chase and throw wildly.
As I say, gentlemen, I've seen stranger things, but in my mind, Ortiz needs a knockout here. Oh, good right hand counter by Miller.
Ortiz was looking for it indeed there, Jonathan King, but he ate a big shot. As Chris said, nice counter-punching ability by Canton Miller.
And most of that power came from Ortiz's forward momentum.
I'm the first to say fighters are often carried way too long in this sport before they face anybody real, but hats off, good right hand.
Crisp right hand.
Hats off to Ortiz's management because they took a very tough outing for a professional debut.
Certainly a baptism by fire here for Ivon Ortiz.
Credit to the matchmakers here at Bash Boxing. An amazing fight here for the second bout of the evening.
And in 32 years of watching boxing, I will go out on a limb and call Canton Miller Jr. the best 2-1 fighter I've ever seen.
And from Chris Strait, that is certainly saying something because you're a walking encyclopedia, my friend.
Many years of being inside watching boxing while others were partying.
All right, so this one went the distance there, Chris.
Well, it should be mentioned, this is actually the second time in a row he's faced a fighter named Ortiz, but Miller's last opponent, Jermaine Ortiz, the only fighter to defeat him, has since won 5 straight. So he is 7-0 with 4 knockouts, and you have to be pretty good to beat this fighter, at least based on what we saw tonight.
No doubt about it there. You take some good insight into the strength of competition for Canton Miller, and you mentioned extreme strength of competition here for Ivon Ortiz in his pro debut. Going the distance with Miller, if nothing else, got to be a moral victory for Ortiz, making a very tough debut.
Maybe looking back, but actually for these fighters when they first turn professional, you want to win in your first fight. You definitely want to start off strong. Not that I've said Johnny Nelson lost his first 3 fights, ended up one of the longest reigning cruiserweight champs ever. And there have been Mike Weaver knocked out in his debut, went 1-3, ended up being the heavyweight champion of the world. It can happen, but you want to start your fighting career with a win, and they really took on someone who I guess they didn't realize how good he was.
And speaking of that, that's exactly what Canton Miller did. Won his first 2 fights before eating his lone loss against Jermaine Ortiz, as you mentioned. But we'll see if he bounces back as we go to the scorecards. And about to make it all official. Taking the center of the squared circle, here's Barry Egan.
Studio City, how about a big round of applause for these two rising stars? To the scorecards we go. Judge Wayne Hedpath scores the bout 39-37. Judges Christy Rosario and Sergio Calles both score the bout 40-36 for the winner by unanimous decision. Out of St. Louis, Missouri, Canton Miller Jr.
Jonathan King standing by. Gonna get a word with Canton Miller.
All right, I'm here with your winner, Canton Miller Jr. Before we get to you, let's put our hands together for Mr. Ortiz. Put on a show in his pro debut tonight. I'm sure we'll see him back in here. But tonight, young man, the evening belongs to you. You talked to me earlier. You said you were looking to be a skillful boxer and you were looking to win this fight with pure boxing. And that's exactly what you did. What's going through your mind right now? How does that win feel?
It feels great. It feels great. My first fight in a year, so it feels good jumping in front of all of the wonderful fans on All-Star Weekend. I want to thank everybody for bringing me out. Let me step back in the ring and knock the dust off, and we rolling from here, baby. I want to thank my dad, Canton Miller Sr. I want to thank Coach Bashur in my corner. I want to thank my lovely wife for coming all the way out here and supporting me, and thank all the wonderful fans for supporting me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Now I'm hearing that we have another Bash boxing event coming up maybe in the next few months. Can we expect to see you back inside this ring?
I'm open for all calls, baby. I'm ready. I stay in the gym. I'm always prepared. All I'm looking for is the call of who I'm fighting, and let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together one more time for Canton Miller Jr. Tremendous victory.
Big win there by Canton Miller Jr., a family affair. His dad, Canton Miller Sr., in the house. Chris Strait, you gave this man a ton of praise, and you mentioned maybe the one drawback, his level of activity. And it seems, according to his words, that is a problem that Canton Miller Jr. expects to fix.
Well, he's from St.